And you can also do cork as well. So we're gonna go through a lot of this stuff here, but we just wanted to welcome you. And I'm gonna kick it back over to Scott to tell you about all the deals and what he's giving away today.
What's he giving away?
What's he giving away?
All right.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Serger Club with Lesley. Let's get rolling. So, just a few announcements. If you haven't seen the emails and other communications from us, we're doing some Zoom virtual classes starting today at 1 o'clock. We'll be doing Embroidery 101, which will be this Wednesday, May 27th, and it'll start at 1 o'clock. It's free, but we do need you to register, and if you would, we're going to turn our phones off here in just a minute at the Williamsville store. So if you're interested in registering, please call the Aurora store, and you can register that way, or you can register online. Additionally, on Friday at 1 o'clock, which is the 29th, we'll be doing Let's Embroider on Towels. And when I say we, I mean Diane. And that's both for today at 1 o'clock, and again, Let's Embroider on Towels. Now the difference for Friday's class is it does require a kit. And the kit is included in the price. So the class and the kit are $45. However, the homework for anyone that signs up for that is to come sign up, and then you have to come pick up your kit. So the kit is included in the fee, and that will be at Friday at 1 o'clock. So in addition, Alyssa and a variety of other teachers have been talking, and we will be putting together some additional classes on Zoom. Of course, this week is, we're going to work out some bugs with Zoom. I know you will be working out bugs with Zoom as well, because Zoom may be new to several people. But in the current environment, with not being able to open up the classroom, we're trying to get our teachers back in the store and get the classes back up and running, and we felt this would be the best way to get going on that. So yeah, we're excited. Once we get a clearer schedule lined out for the following week, we'll be communicating out to everyone, both email and Facebook. And certainly don't forget about Saturday's live session, because we'll talk about it then as well. Okay, I got some bad news. Clearly, with not being able to have a large group together, we have to cancel our annual club banquet this June. And that is unfortunate, but for the safety of everyone and certainly the sanity of everyone, considering the circumstances, we're going to have to cancel and just make sure next year's is even better. So I know we've had a few inquiries on that. We just felt it was time to roll that announcement out, considering everything going on. So all right, let's talk about the Serger Club specials and what we have here with the clear zipper bag. I think the best thing with the clear zipper bag is, no matter the Serger type you have, whether it's a Baby Lock, a Bernina, a Juki, a Singer, a Brother, or anything else out there, and I know there's a variety of others, you can do this, and it doesn't matter if it's the top of the line Triumph or the beginning Vibrant or one of the Burnett Sergers. You can do this project, and it's a fun project. I actually did it a while back. So here you can see we produce multiple kits, and these kits, if you roll up everything, it's $35+. The club special is $26.38 for any given kit. And what you get is the clear vinyl, the fabric / marine vinyl that goes with it. So we do have a gray marine vinyl, a red marine vinyl kit. We have 2 Tula kits, the pink and the light blue. And we also have some duck cloth. So a variety of different kits. Each comes with a zipper, and then each comes with your choice of one spaghetti 12 weight thread. The other is one fruity 12 weight thread, and that's the variegated. Those are the two wonderful thread types that we've been utilizing in the Sergers on a lot of our decorative stitches. So you may already have some, but now you can add to your collection if you're getting the kit. Okay, oh, and every one of these kits comes with the instruction packet. And the nice thing about this club is there's an instruction packet. One is developed for the 8-thread sergers, and another is developed for a 4-thread serger. So if you're buying one of these kits, or if you're buying 10 of these kits, you have to specify which serger you would like the instructions for. Okay? All right. The other scenario we have here is all feet and feet kits are 25% off as part of Serger Club if you're a Serger Club member. So there are a variety of feet that are used here in today's program, and it's sometimes if you have multiple feet already, this will be covered. If not, it's easier and cheaper actually to buy the feet kit, but your choice. And you'll see as we go through the program what feet we're using. I have pictures here of many that we do have captured. All right. So with that, thank you, Lesley, for putting together today's program and making all the great samples to share with everyone. And let's kick off Serger Club.
Okay, so one of the things I wanted to talk about with this, the Clearview zipper bag, is the fun thing that if you have the baby lock, it has the exclusive wave stitch, and that's on the 8-thread serger. So if you see here, you're going to use the 2 decorative, and you're going to actually go over that and use the flat lock wave stitch. I used it here, I used it on all the zippers, and then I have a sample that I'll show you where I actually used it to connect the fabric and the clear vinyl as well. I'll show you that when we get over to the machine. But I just kind of wanted to show you the different look that you get. Here I used a purple and a black. This, I shortened up my stitches a little bit, and you definitely get a different look depending on the length that you adjust your machine to. Here with a different color. This is a little bit longer. Here on this one I used marine vinyl. The shorter little bag here I used a red and a white, and again that one's a little bit longer. Now you can use an 8-weight thread. But I only suggest using it on a heavier material, only because it's big and bulkier. So I was making this bag with cork, and I decided to try out the 8-weight. And you can see that it definitely pops a little bit more on the cork, but I wouldn't recommend using it on a cotton, just because it's probably going to sink in and it's going to look a little bit bulky on your bag. So if you wanted to kind of test that out, you could test it out also with cork, or even maybe a heavier duck cloth if that was the way you wanted to go as well. I know a lot of people have interest in how would you use these bags. I think everybody could use a clear zipper pouch for basically anything. I started making these for my son to carry his toys around in. You can put thread in them, lunch in them. This one here is made so it's the size that you can actually put your Kimberbell pop rulers in. So that's kind of nice. I know at one point a lot of people were using that. And we're going to use the belt loop, and we'll show you that. And I actually just made a little braided handle to show you how you could also do that as well. Some have handles, some don't. You could also use additional hardware. This, I bought some D-clips, so you could make this as a crossover bag if you wanted to do that. It's basically up to you. We're giving you the pattern for a 10 by 10 bag. but you can modify that different sizes depending on how you see fit. And I think that is just whatever the look you're going for. So this is a crossbody bag. This one here, a little fun. This one you could put your little keys on, and it could be a cell phone. So you put your cell phone in here, and you could carry that as well, throw it in a bag. So that's nice. With this zipper pouch here, I actually made this confetti inside. So I actually pieced 2 clear vinyls together and put the confetti or the glitter inside it and then sewed it together. So that's how this one, and it moves around a little bit. But that's a little something fun, because I know a lot of people have kids at home. They're trying to figure out what to do with them. This is a good project. Even just keeping all that glitter in this vinyl is a good task. I use that with my son all the time. So let's move over to the machine, and we'll first talk about the wave stitch. So one of the things to notice, and we're working on the Triumph here, and I have a 4-thread serger. I'm going to go back and forth between the two, but if you have a 4-thread serger, you can still do this project. I know the Baby Lock has a couple 4-thread sergers that offer that exclusive wave stitch. Unfortunately, because of the Baby Lock warehouse special, we don't have any in right now, so I can't show you that one. But if you do contact the store, I'm pretty sure they could get you one as soon as possible. I know there's a lot of shipping stuff going on. So we're basically going to be working on the Triumph, but I'm going to show you how this can be done on the Victory as well. You're just basically going to be using the overlock stitch on the 4-thread serger, but on the Triumph, we're going to actually thread it, and I do have it threaded already, but I'm going to kind of walk you through the threading on the 8-thread serger, because it can be a little temperamental when you want to do a flat lock wave stitch. So I have my test piece here because we wanted to make sure that it was properly working, and I will show you how to line up the zipper. So one of the things looking at the machine here is we have our decorative thread in our lower looper, and we have it in our overlock too. Now the reason for this is the tension wise, So when we open this up, we have our red lower looper threaded in here, and of course we turn it down to thread, and it's already lined up in here, and we get it set up. Then we're going to take our upper looper, and we're going to run that through our overlock 2 section. And this will adjust the tension in order for us to be able to lay it flat. So it'll become that flat lock wave stitch. So if you see it here on your machine, it's going down the 2 tension, but then we're going to put it back through the upper looper. So that was one of my many trial and errors when I first started this, because it was trying to adjust the tension. But if you put it through the upper looper, thread it through, then it'll actually give you this wave. So then we want to make sure as well that our button is clicked on the wave stitch, and that we're in our wave D. So this selector button is on D. A couple of things that we're going to want to make sure of, and again, I talked about this before with our length. They suggest anywhere from 1 to 3, and that's just going to determine how far the wave stretches out. And then your width is going to be at 3.5 right here. We're going to want to make sure that our upper looper selector is up, and that our blade position here is up as well. And our subsidiary looper is going to be back. and then we're going to thread. So one of the things to remember when you're doing this, and we have a regular foot on here, you're going to want to use the cording foot because you're using a zipper, but you can also use the regular foot as well. So it's just a little bit maneuvering, so that's fine. If you don't have a cording foot, again, they're 25% off. You can order one of those, or you can use a regular foot. The way that you're gonna line this up, and the reason why you get a 14-inch zipper and we're only doing a 10-inch bag is because you need at least 2 inches on each side to get your zipper around the foot. So when we take and we're going to use this for example, this is going to be our 10-inch bag, our fabric that we're firstly going to do. You're going to line it up with your zipper down. So your zipper is going to be down underneath with your metal piece out of the way underneath your machine, like so. And then you're going to take your fabric and line your fabric up underneath approximately 2 inches. So this will allow movement before the stitch starts and then after the stitch starts in order to get this piece out of the way, so you're not running the tape. So you'll show you, and I'll show you how that looks. This is a little difficult here, but it'll start and your wave stitch will continue to go on the zipper. And when you start to get to your end, you're going to want to watch your fabric right there. You want to make sure that you have, and this is why you have the extra zipper. You can also buy the zipper by the yard, which I actually found worked immensely better because you could cut it to what you needed it to. And that's what made you were able to make a custom bag however size you wanted. You weren't limited to just a 14-inch zipper, which would convert into a 10 by 10 bag, or an 18-inch zipper, which would be 14. You could do whatever size bag you wanted. So as you see here, I'm coming off the end. My material is right there. Whoops, sorry. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep going a little bit more off the zipper, and then we're gonna pull it off and just let it run off the side. So then,
Sorry, guys.
sorry. So then this is what it looks like when you pull it out of the machine. But the fancy thing about this is, and I thought this was also just wonderful, is that the flat lock is when you start pulling it. So then you pull it so that it lays flat on your zipper, hence the flat lock stitch.
So you're just lightly tugging on that for it to flip?
Yep, so I'm just lightly tugging on that in order to get it to lay flat. But that is why you want a larger zipper, at least 2 inches above the fabric that you're using. Or you buy the zipper by the yard. Because you want to be able to have some room to maneuvering. I did when I first started doing these, I cut them a little bit close thinking I can use 1-inch zipper over my material, and that just wasn't the case. It made it more difficult. So for peace of mind, I would always make sure you have at least 2 inches or more that you're working with that allows you to have that turning off to close up that zipper. So when you do that, that's one side, that's basically the bottom side of your zipper. And then you would do the other side of your zipper. So what we would do is we would open up our zipper and we're going to face it down again. We would lay our fabric down, and we would do the same thing. We would run our sewing machine, we would run our stitch all the way down, and then I would close it up and then tug it back up and open it up. Now, one of the key things here that I learned when you're doing this is when you line up your, we're gonna pretend that these match. When you line up your material, you can do a little clip with your scissors here and here, so that you can make sure that both your materials are lined up together, so that when you start shifting it in here, you can make sure you're on that little nip of the zipper tape. And that kind of helps to make sure that you are staying lined up with whatever you're doing. Well, actually, it'd be this way. But you'd have a little nick here that would show you where you would want to be. And then again, you would open it up. Now, one of the nice things that I said that is with the wave stitch, is that you don't have to just use it in the zipper. You can use it with this project, you can use it in multiple ways. For here, I actually used it to piece my clear vinyl and my vinyl together here, and I actually didn't put this one together for demo reasons. But you would run it the same way, and it's actually pretty easier because you're matching your material to your material, so you don't need to worry about the extra 2 inches that you would need on each side like you would with a zipper. So if you're afraid of a zipper, you could always just, let's just try it here on your clear vinyl and your fabric, and that will give it also a different look as compared to the other bags where just the wave stitch is above the zipper. So I thought that that was another tip that you could do as well. So from there, looking at the PowerPoint, we've gone through both of the zippers, and then next what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the belt loop. So you obviously want a handle. Most people like a handle on their clear zipper bags, and if you're going to be carrying around like your Kimberbell pop rulers, you're going to want a handle. If you have thread that you want to put in there, you can also use those as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert our machine to a wide cover stitch. So we're going to have to take our thread out, our decorative thread out of here, and we're going to convert our machine to a wide cover stitch, and I'm gonna just show you how this belt looper works. We're not gonna actually stitch anything out, but then I'm gonna jump to the next portion of how to do that. I think everybody's been doing a lot of masks, so those of you who have this are probably more proficient on those, so we will show that as well.
This is more suitable for handles, the larger size.
Yes. And it also comes in 3/4 belt loops as well.
So the lanyards was the 3/4. What you're for the purse, we're recommending the 1 1/2 belt loop binder.
Yeah, so the thinner belt loop, like on your jeans or the bands we use for mask making, would be the 3/4 inch, which actually comes, when you're done with it, is just a hair above a 1/4 inch wide. And then this belt loop binder is the 1 1/2 inch belt loop binder, but when it folds over, you're basically at 3/4 inch wide, which would make more of a purse strap, a zipper bag strap, something a little heavier duty.
A tinier wrist, like a tinier wristlet, if you wanted to do that as well.
I've never worn one of those.
Scott hasn't worn many wristlets. I'm just gonna focus on how pretty this looks because I really like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it is that you can use that wave stitch to piece anything that you want to piece. It's nicer because you can. I just thought, for me at first, I thought that I didn't really think that there was a flat lock wave stitch. I just thought there was just the wave stitch. So for me, I was like, wow, this is so neat. I didn't know this stitch existed. And they were like, no, there's two different ones. And I was like, now I can piece together. I can add something more decorative to something. That's the nice thing. And I encourage everybody to try it in different ways. I know that when you're piecing these things together, some people are afraid of zippers. I was one of those people that was afraid of zippers. But now everybody knows zipper bags are my jam. I love zipper bags. I will make zipper bags all the time because there's always a need for a zipper bag. So everybody always has.
Once you do your first one, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Because if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
True that.
And Scott, you did this project before, correct?
I did. In my Serger certification training.
Ooh. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna thread it. I'm gonna show you how we thread it for the cover stitch wide. And that's what you're gonna want when you're using the belt loop. So I'm gonna show you how we're gonna thread that. And then I'm gonna show you, and then I'm gonna do something even trickier because we're gonna remove a needle and I'm gonna show you how to actually just stitch without doing two needles.
So Leslie, I have a question.
Okay.
Why did you open the zipper to serge the other side? Why couldn't you leave the zipper closed?
You could have.
Okay.
But I get nervous when I have too many things underneath my foot.
Okay.
So if I have less bulk underneath the my foot, and again, I didn't put the cording foot under here. The cording foot would have
Grab the
grabbed just the one when I opened
okay.
it up. You would have just fed that one half of your zipper through there, which would have lined everything up. That would have been nicer. I just left the regular foot on to show you that it could be done that way as well. But again, it's easier to use a cording foot.
Just wondering. I was wondering what the reasoning of opening the zipper was. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. So Alyssa's going to put it on the PowerPoint so we can kind of show you what the settings are. And this is not wanting to work. So if you want to walk through and look at what the settings are for the 8 thread machine, what I'm doing is I'm threading now the Triumph, and I'm setting up my chain needles 1 and 2, and that's what you're gonna do for the belt loop to use the belt loop.
Did you use, when you did the belt loop strapping, did you put the interface on the back?
I did for one of those, and then I didn't for the other. And you can definitely tell the difference between how tight and how sturdy it is after it's put together. It's also one of those things, like I love this belt loop foot. But it's also a little temperamental. You have to practice with it a little bit in order to make sure that when you're folding your fabric and you're cutting your angle, and Scott, I think you did a video with this showing how to use that belt loop or foot, that you have to make sure that you're feeding it in the right way and it's catching right at that right point. Otherwise you get a hot mess at the beginning while you're, and I think that's why they tell you to cut it longer, to cut the handle longer than what you actually need.
You wanna put that, cut it at a point, slide your fabric through using that all-purpose tool, the same tool that you're removing your needles with, the screwdriver, and put it right up underneath the needle. So when you hit the gas, the needle is actually grabbing it with the feed dogs and pulling it through. And Leslie, I totally agree. It is a little temperamental just to get it all situated just right and properly aligned. But once you get it, you don't need to stop. You can just keep chain piecing your strapping or belt looping right through that attachment.
One of the questions is, what kind of interfacing?
So you can use like a medium weight. It all depends on how stiff you want your bag. So on one of those bags, I just use like a dream weave just to give it a little bit more. Then I used the medium weight, which is what I think was on the blue Tula pink one. And you can tell the difference that it stiffened it right up. I was going to try a fusible fleece just to see how that worked, but I thought after I used the medium weight, it was stiff enough that I don't think that I would want it any stiffer or heavier. And again, these aren't lined, and I was going to make a lined one, but you're going to see the exposed seam. So whatever you're putting on the back of that fabric, you're going to see it in the inside. So I really liked working with the cork and the marine vinyl because it has a woven backing on the back of it, so it's not as exposed as what regular fabric would be in just plain white. So for me, I think that this project really, I think the cork and the marine vinyl actually really shine in this project because I think that the backing gives it that look of being lined instead of
A little heavier duty.
yeah, it's a little heavier duty.
Someone asked what needles are being used. Is there a special needle that they need to put in their serger, or just the regular serger needles?
I just used a regular serger needle, actually the ones that came with my machine. I just used a regular needle. I think that Baby Lock suggests that you could use like a 90 needle, depending on, again, what material you're using. For me, it depends on the vinyl. And when I say vinyl, not the clear vinyl, like the red or the gray. And I use a lot of marine vinyl in embroidery. I usually stick to a 75/11 for me, depending on what I'm actually doing or what it is. And again, it depends on the material you're using. You could go up. You could go up to a 90. I think it gives it more ease and everything kind of flows through your machine a lot smoother.
And the 12 weight threads, it makes everything a lot easier and a lot smoother using that 90 needle.
Yes, and I did find that as well with the decorative thread. Again, like I tried before I got my spaghetti thread and my fruity thread, I actually used the heavier, and I think you recall on that cork bag, I actually used an 8-weight thread, and I had to do kind of the bypass on my machine just to kind of get it going through. But it looks nice on the cork, and I really think it looks nice, and I think that the spaghetti or the fruity would look nice on the cork as well. I just think it pops a little bit more with that little heavier thread because it's kind of sitting up on the cork for that.
So someone asked, what is marine vinyl?
Glad you asked that question. Marine vinyl is fabulous. So it's heavier. It's a heavier material. It's often used in like boating. So like if you're fortunate to have a boat, or it's waterproof. So you get anything on it, you can wipe it off. It cleans very well. It's a thicker material that again, it's a colored vinyl, but it's thicker, and it comes in different colors. I think you have 4 different colors here that they offer here in East Aurora.
Mm-hmm.
But we just chose red and gray because everybody knows me. I'm an Ohio State fan, so go Buckeyes, red and gray. That's why we chose that. So I, of course, had to make some bags. So that's why we chose those colors. And then, of course, we wanted to give a variety of what else you could use. Duck cloth. I know there's a lot of people who are making garden flags out there. So you have some extra duck cloth that you want to use up. The duck cloth would go really nice. And I think there's a little bit more in the fabric that you're using that you will have leftovers that you could do different size bags. But I think that you're also only getting a 14-inch zipper in the pack. So if you're looking to kind of get on the zipper bag train, because Leslie's the conductor here, and we are having fun. So I would suggest getting some stuff because I love, again, I think one of the things I want to show you too before I move forward with the next step is you can be as creative as you want. So as you can see, this bag does not look like the rest of the other bags. I added this middle piece in, and I am a baby lock individual, but for all of those Bernina people out there, nothing against you, but I love everyone, no discrimination here. I added an additional panel on the end. So this bag is actually a little bit longer, and again, you can kind of create your own pattern. We're giving you a template for a 10 by 10 bag to show you the directions for that. But you can also add this up, add another strip on the bottom, and it makes the bag a little bit bigger. Swap them out a little bit. Here, because this was a pattern piece, I wanted to kind of show the actual machine on the fabric. So I had to kind of fussy cut a little bit to see what I wanted in the center of this bag, and I did the same thing on the back just to make sure that it matched. So those are one of the things that I kind of, you know, in this project, I know you're going to have a little extra fabric in there in your kits that you buy, so kind of think out your comfort zone. If you want to do a 10 by 10 and you want to add an additional panel, there is room for it in there. I know that there is. Or maybe you don't want your handle here, maybe you want your handle on the side to go off from the side. You can do that as well. So those are some of the things that I just kind of wanted to kind of reiterate in there, that, you know, it's not just a one bag step, and it's just not a 10 by 10. You can do many things. Any other questions?
What about laminated fabric?
I did try laminated fabric, and I think you have some of that here. Do you have the clear laminate that you lay over your fabric and you can make it laminate fabric? So, which they do have here. So the only thing that I found was when, and I learned a new term the other day, when you're birthing the bag.
Thank you, Eileen.
Yeah. Because the bag is inside out, when you're putting it all together, you have to pull it through the zipper. So you're birthing the bag. They also use that in other terms too. So I found that with the laminating the fabric and those types of things, that this tends to get wrinkled a little bit when you're pulling it back through. So for that reason, I didn't do it. I did it in one bag. I didn't bring it because it wasn't this template, but it wrinkled a lot. So if you want to kind of put, I mean, I wouldn't recommend putting your hand under here and ironing this, but I also wouldn't recommend ironing around
The clear vinyl.
the clear vinyl, because once you nick that vinyl, you're gonna melt it. So it just depends on the look you're giving. If you're using like a batik, it probably might not show as much because the batik doesn't really have a solid material fabric. So that might be, if you wanted to try that, but you guys have that. And
Your one of them is Lesley. Your mom wants that bag.
everybody wants this.
She's a
bag.
birdie.
That's good.
My mom has a baby lock. So.
Oh, she might be getting a Bernina.
Yeah. So, but this is probably this one. I actually said these are probably my favorite bags. This one here, the longer one, and then the other Tula that we have over there. So I'm gonna go back to the machine here. We were setting it up for a wide cover stitch. So if you want to show back the settings, I think the settings were on there. And it kind of talks about the strap for where we were at. And for many of those, I'm not going to demonstrate it on the machine because I think everybody has fully used the belt lock or the belt looper foot I'm gonna say that 5 times and see how that goes. Instead, what I'm gonna show you is that when we start piecing everything together, we're actually going to remove one of our needles from the wide cover stitch. So, give me a minute because I got to get this one's our handy
Multi-purpose tool, man.
Multi-purpose tool. So normally what you would do if you were going to do the cover stitch for the belt looper is that you would have a needle in C1 and C3. And that would give you, I was trying to give you my, and of course when you're doing something live, nothing wants to work out correctly here. It doesn't want to set.
I can hear it.
I know, it's like it's right there, but it doesn't want to go in. And I always feel like I'm either...
I'll back up so you can get in the right position.
And sometimes when you can't, I remove my foot to allow me space to get in there. But for some reason, this is not wanting to work. There it is. So there's my C3. Which that's the one I'm going to remove. So if we were going to use the belt looper, and we had our cutting table, we'll just do this. So if we had our cutting table, we would line this up here.
On the first holes?
Yeah, I did the first holes.
Okay.
So this is where we would line up because obviously this looper would be down. We would put the belt looper there and then we would feed our material through. And we would have a needle in C1 and C3. And that would give us our handle, which is right here. This is my stitch out.
That's the size that comes out with the 1.5 inch belt
Yes.
loop binder.
Yes.
So that's what.
So that's the back.
That's what you want to make sure it catches those two pieces.
So it'll fold in. And then as you can see, there's my beginning with my angle cut. That's what I actually fed through here.
And you just push it through with the multi-purpose
And you just
tool in there.
Push it through. It'll feed through with the two. And depending on how long you are. I know a lot of mask makers out there probably were running. I know I did a bunch of those with this. So that's the nice thing with this belt looper. So when we're, so you're gonna set the machine up to do the handle with the belt looper. Then we're gonna piece the bag using the same stitch, the wide cover stitch, but we're gonna remove the third needle. And this essentially is gonna give us the same line here, so it'll look kind of like a finishing stitch on the top, but on the back it'll actually look like a chain stitch. So that will be what the back will look like. And that's how we actually piece the entire bag together. When we start adding the panels together, when we start adding, so you can see when you're adding the panels together, this is the chain stitch that's on the back. And then this is my top stitch on the front. So when we start top stitching, we're gonna run this through, and I'm just kind of explaining, we'll go back to the actual directions for how you piece the bag. But the top will look like this finishing stitch, and your bottom will look like the chain stitch. And that's just a different version of your cover stitch because you removed your C3 needle, which is kind of neat as well, because then you could basically, that could be used as a piecing, as a way of piecing things using your serger, which I didn't know was there as well. So one of the other things that we kind of wanted to talk about before we move into piecing your zipper bag together is a Teflon foot, which Alyssa's showing you right now.
Why would you want to use this?
Because on the bottom of that foot there is a different type of material, a Teflon, underneath it, and we will show it to you. It helps provide a, if you see this material here, it helps to move the material, particularly more the clear vinyl, because the clear vinyl gets really sticky when you're trying to put it under a machine. When anybody who's sewed with clear vinyl, whether it be a regular machine or a Serger machine, it can stick to the bottom of the machine, the metal part. It can be really difficult to deal with. And the marine vinyl as well. It just makes your life a lot easier if you're using one of these machines, because it glides along the top of the vinyl, whether it be the clear or the marine vinyl. One of the other things that I also use tipped wise underneath this is you can use the tissue paper. You can use tissue paper, you can use parchment paper, or you can use the paper directions that usually come with clear vinyl to put underneath your machine, and you would actually sew on it, and it will help reduce the friction, I guess that you would say, that comes with trying to get something sticky through your machine. It helps provide that, and then you can just rip off the paper. And I'm sure there's other things that you could probably use as well. But for the top, on the top stitch, I would definitely use the Teflon. All of those machines, except for probably the 2 cork bags, I used the Teflon foot because it was a lot easier to maneuver.
Lesley, I think, did one of her samples and then called me at the store and said, "Do you have an Serger Teflon foot?" So she ran in here right away and got it.
Yeah, that was one of the necessities that I was like, that's gotta work. You gotta have that. So again, what we have it set to, we have the cover stitch, and we have it in C1, and we removed C3. So I have always left this here. It's not a big deal. It's not going to run it through. If you're usually like me, you can snip it back here if you pulled the right one. Doesn't really matter. When we were doing training, they said that you could leave it there or trim it a little bit shorter. It's not really going to matter because the thread is in its own little line here and nothing's being pulled. So you can leave it or you can take it out and remove it. It's not really a big
It's
deal.
really not engaged.
Yeah, it's not engaged. That's the word. So again, lengthwise you can determine whether you can go from 2 to 4. Again, your stitch length. Depending on if you're doing a top stitch or not, I usually kind of err in like a 3 to 3.5, depending on the material again. If you're gonna use marine vinyl, I would probably go 3.5 to 4 in a lengthwise, just because you're moving through a thicker thread, and the shorter the thread, it's going to get stuck in the marine vinyl, so it'll kind of sink. So you kind of want a longer length when you're using the marine vinyl, and probably the cork as well, just because you don't want it to look, the stitches to be too close. Plus, if they're too short, you could also pierce the vinyl depending on what you're doing. So that would also, then you'd end up with your vinyl just ripping back through and then you'd be crying like myself. So now that we have it, we have this length at, we're gonna do 3. And then we're going to do our width we don't need to worry about. We are going to need to close this back up. And we can go back to the slides, and I'm going to walk you through the slides because I'm not going to actually do the stitching of the rest of the bag. So Scott, if you could push me along to the next slide, that would be great. So as you can see here, we were talking about the presser foot. When you're doing you're basically going to piece your bag back together. So you have done your handle. You have placed your handle where you want your handle to be. If you want a handle, you don't need to have a handle. And then you're going to lay your back fabric basically. You're going to lay your back fabric on top of how you placed your handle, and you're going to stitch that out, and that is going to piece your bag together, so your front of your bag and your back of your bag together. And I used a 1/4 inch, and that I used a 1/4 inch on all of my seams around, which kind of gave me an inkling of as to how this bag was going to be laid out for a 10 by 10. Scott, if you could push me forward again into the next one. We talked about the Teflon foot, so you can go ahead and skip through that one.
Definitely value add for that vinyl.
Yes, and you said that the foots are 25% off, so you know, if that would be something you would be interested in, I would go ahead and do that.
I do remember that vinyl being like sticky.
It is.
Until we went to that Teflon foot.
Yeah, and especially the clear vinyl, that's the one that is definitely the pain that you're going to want to do. So again, when you're stitching through, and the directions give you all this, but moving forward, you're actually going to be using that wide cover stitch with the C3 removed. So you're going to be piecing this bag all together, your individual strips. And it's just going to be your fabric, your clear, and your fabric, or your vinyl, however you're going to be. So you see on the screen there that you have the whole front part of your bag done and stitched together. So then you're going to do the same thing on the back. You're going to do your back fabric, then you're going to do your clear fabric, and then you're going to do the bottom part of your fabric. And when you get that, you're going to line up your bag together, and it's going to be inside out. And this is what we were talking about before. And kind of what I want to just say really quickly is that when you're lining it up, you want to make sure that your two fabric parts are matching. Yeah, so I'm going to kind of slide in here a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. So your bag's basically going to look like this. So here's your bottom, here's your clear, here's your back, here's your zipper, and then here's your back piece. So you're going to want to make sure that when you're getting ready to do your last cover stitch, that you're going to clip these here and here so that these line up and your bottoms line up. And this is where you can do a little bit of adjustment if you're off a little bit, because essentially you're going to cut off the sides when you put your cover stitch in on the end. But you want to make sure that these line up in the front and in the bottom, so that when you birth your bag, you don't have one part of your fabric showing from the back. And don't get me wrong, I have a bag like that, and that's how I learned to make sure that everything was lined up and stitched correctly. Go ahead, Scott, you can hit the next slide. And again, that's what that's saying. You want to make sure that your fabric strips meet up, you stitch that in place. Now from here is where they're going to want you to change over to a cover stitch. It depends on the look that you want that bag. I think it also securely, if you want to grab me, that one, yeah, and then the red one. I did them in different colors. you can kind of see, so this one here, you can kind of see I did a little, but I added a little blue in there to kind of add the pizzazz. It's not the prettiest thing in the world for doing the cover stitch or the overlock stitch, but it's more secure. So now with the red one, I did a gray, and I kind of, I did the gray and I shortened it up a little bit, so it made it a little bit thicker. And to me, I don't think that the gray is as noticeable on the clear vinyl. So you can play with that. You can also do the same stitch that we were doing with the cover stitch. You can use this, so it's hard to show. Again, that's the back piece. You could also run that all the way down both sides of your bags if you want to. I would just be careful the size of the needle that you're using, because if again, like I talked about before, if your length is too short on this side, you could rip your vinyl. You could perforate your vinyl, if that's the word. So I would be very careful. I think that's why they basically use the overlock stitch to close up the bag. Scott, can you send me along the other one? And then you're going to want to top stitch in place. So that's what I think makes the bag the most after each one of these, is looking at that top stitch, and that's the length. I'd always go 3.5 to 4. Go ahead. This is where we are. I already talked about this. Zipping up the sides of the bags. I always slow down when I'm going over my zipper, just because you hit it the right way and that needle's gonna break. So I always slow my machine down when I'm going over a zipper, or actually any kind of bulk, because it doesn't take much for that needle to hit something and it'll snap your needle.
And that maybe is a good point for some of our newer viewers.
Yes.
We're using nylon zippers.
Yes.
Yes.
So do not run your serger over a metal zipper, because then you'll have to bring it into our technicians.
Yes. And if you were to buy the zipper by the foot, those ones do look like a metal zipper, but they are nylon. So if you want that look, you can get it through there. I know there's a wide variety of different color, the tape and the zipper itself. Again, that's the side zipper, what we just talked about, zippering, sewing down the zipper. And that's the same thing. You're just going to begin finishing it off. And then what they talk about here is burying the tails. So I have yet to perfect this. This helps me a little bit with burying the tails, how they say to lift up the foot, bring the tail around, and then it kind of flows into what you're sewing some more. You can do that on the corners because you're sewing off your fabric, then you're lifting up your foot, you're bringing your material back around, and then you're burying the tail in the zipper. So you're kind of hiding it in there. So it's not just one off, then start again. It's not 3 cuts. It will be one continuous stitch.
You're pivoting on your needle.
Yes, you're pivoting on your needle is basically what you're doing.
Certainly you can use the freight block or freight check to glue these things down so they're not causing headache later.
Yeah, and there's also that little needle that you have, the double eye needle that you can also do, which I prefer because then I have a clear direction as to where I'm going with it.
Little hooky would be another one, right?
Yeah, I find the double eye needle to be easier in the overlock stitch to push that tail through and sew it in there.
Yeah, because I think once you got your machine, your fabric in there, your machine, you're trying to run all your hands a certain way, and especially with that knife that's cutting off your fabric at the same time. For me, I would rather bury it the manual way. So that's just me. Go ahead. That talks about the burying of the tail as well. And all these directions will actually be in a handout format with the pattern in the kit. that you can get as well.
Yeah, there's good diagrams and photos and instructions.
Yeah, and it goes into more detail in the directions than the slides that we have here. Again, we're still burying. And then securing your seams. That's just the amount of how you're burying it again, and you going beyond. So once that's done, you've sewn all the way around. You can keep going. You're gonna bring your machine you're gonna bring your bag out of your machine, and then you're going to be able to secure it if you want, by going over the end. I didn't do that with any of my bags just because I was stitching around them, and I know Scott was talking about his bag that he did, and he put way too much stuff in it. So I think it's kind of securing it and securing your securing your stitches is probably the best to do. That way you know that your bag's not going to fall apart.
We had a conversation earlier this morning, and it was about the 3-thread or the 4-thread overlock, and I used the 3-thread, and then because I was traveling, I overstuffed my big clear zipper bag with a lot of other sewing projects, and part of my clear vinyl had ripped, but that was more user error, and I think better suited to use the 4-thread just to give another secure stitch in there.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I was talking about before. You could piece the end together where you're, instead of using the cover stitch in the end, you could just finish it off using that chain stitch. But you might have that issue like that Scott had with just this sewing up. Just depends on how much stuff you're putting into your bag as well.
Note to self.
Yeah, note to self. So go ahead. And then this is where we talk about, now that your bag is finished, you're going to want to turn it inside out or birth the bag. And what I did by the time you get done, you're going to have some wrinkles probably in your clear vinyl. You're going to do that. What I do is I take my iron and I iron my actual ironing board. And while that's warm, I take my bag and rub my bag over top of my ironing board so that there's a light heat that goes over it, and it kind of straightens out the bag. And you're not direct heat to the bag as well. Because I know if you also lay fabric over your vinyl and iron it, you're still going to get that really flimsy. So the best thing is to iron your ironing board. Take your ironing board away, lay your bag on top of it, and just rub it on the ironing board, and that heat will release some of the wrinkles as well. It won't be perfect, but again, you're trying to turn something inside out, and that's not an easy process. So you went the wrong way. So the cutting instructions, you will get the cutting instructions in your kit, whether you choose the fabric or the vinyl. There's a piece in there for how to do your handle, and then your clear vinyl pieces. And I think there's a little extra in the material that you could probably make a smaller bag. You just would need to buy extra zippers.
I was just going to say, I mean, this is, I'm very appreciative, Lesley, of you coming in and sticking with the Serger Club, doing the program, doing so many samples, yes, and trying some different things here with the clear zipper bag on a variety of materials. Obviously, our club season has been interrupted. It's not been the way that we would wish, but I think thanks to everyone that's been flexible and allowed us to put this together on Facebook Live. Obviously, there's a picture here of what we're used to doing and what we want to do. We can't wait to get back into our normal group setting and just not just the education, but the social aspect and the fun environment that I think is created by pulling us all together. So you know, I'm sad to say this is actually our last Serger Club
It
session
is till
of
next
the-
year.
That is sad.
the
I
club
didn't
season.
realize that
Yeah.
either.
You were the final.
I hope I met your guys' expectations, and you weren't walking away sad. But
Well, this has been I thought a great first crack at our Serger Club. You
yes.
know, we had a great year. We've done a lot of different projects. I think we all have learned something
yes,
and look forward to assembling next season's Serger Club.
Yeah.
With some different projects and different techniques and keep the momentum going and don't
Even-
let the dust build up on anyone's Serger or in anyone's Serger.
Even with the hiccups that we had through all this, we pulled it all together. Like,
yeah. And don't be afraid of your Serger, because I was one that bought a Serger because I thought this was the coolest machine ever, and I was afraid of it for the longest time. And now I actually love this machine. Like, I will pull this out and be like, oh, I can fix that. Oh, I can fix that. Oh, and now I can make zipper bags. That's even better. So, thank you guys for everything. Scott and Alyssa, I enjoyed this. Look forward to seeing the rest of you, hopefully, when we can get back to normal.
yeah.
And if maybe at the end here, just if someone came in a little late, we can go back to the samples.
Yep, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go back to the samples and kind of give you a little rundown of what you missed in the beginning. So no one sign off just yet. Okay, so the questions that we have right now are, you know, I'm going to show you the kits, and then do we have the patterns for sale? Yes, each of the patterns are for sale. We have them at both locations, so as soon as you want, you can call the store and purchase the pattern. I'm going to walk over. I'll let you look at me for a second. So I'm not walking around crazy. What I'm going to show you is the kits over on the other table, so you can see what kits we have and Lesley samples. And then the other thing I want to show you, so you have an idea. So here is all of our spaghetti and fruity thread. You can, I'm going to just do a slow scan here so you can see all the colors that we offer. Here's the spaghetti, and then down here is the fruity, which is the variegated. What's nice about the kit is you can pick one of the spaghetti and one of the fruity of the color of your choice. So each kit that you purchase comes with one spaghetti of your choice and one fruity of your choice. You can look at it right here of all the colors that I'm showing you. You can go on our website and look at it on there because we do have them loaded for you to pick the color or have an up close color of what your choice is of colors. If you look at the beginning of the PowerPoint, I did kind of pick colors in the pictures of kind of what I thought. I just don't want to trip here. So I kind of grabbed some colors and said, oh, if this was me making the bag, this is what I would pick. So I will show you. Here are the samples. Again, so these are the kits that we have of the Tula. And then we have the duck cloth that Lesley made. She made one in the marine vinyl of white. Here's her red one. And then she got real creative and fun and made two out of cork. Now the kits that we have the red marine vinyl and the gray marine vinyl. Here are two of the patterns. So as you see, when you please call and place an order for the pattern or your kit, please specify if you want a 4-thread machine instructions or the 8-thread machine instructions. That's really important so you get the right ones to go with the machine that you own. And then we have the duck cloth, which is yellow duck cloth. And then there is the two Tula options. You have the pink and the blue. And see, those were the threads that, if I was doing the blue Tula, I kind of thought, ooh, those are cool together. Those were my ideas for the yellow duck cloth. And then I actually thought these two threads for the red or the gray would look kind of cute on both of them. All right, so here are the samples. I'm gonna leave you with this so you can look at them again. I will, whoever wants to join the Zoom at 1 o'clock, please call and sign up, or go on our website and sign up for Embroidery 101 class on Zoom. We'll be sending you the link shortly We're just finishing up with this. And then if you want to, we also have the embroidery on towels class on Zoom for Friday at 1 o'clock. If you sign up for that, just make sure that you get to the store either today or tomorrow to get your kit. So you can do that. The weight of the spaghetti thread is 12 weight. All right. Have a wonderful day. I hope you enjoyed the Serger class, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.